Welcome into the Saints Insider Podcast. Today is Friday, December the 27th. I'm Zach Ewing along with Matthew Paris, Luke Johnson, and Jeff Duncan. Trust you all had a happy holidays, a Merry Christmas this week, minus Monday night, I suppose. The Saints laid an egg in Green Bay, but I don't know that any of us, you watched last Friday's show, didn't expect anything less. So we're going to preview Saints Raiders today in a way. I don't think that this game is really worth a traditional preview. We will go through it, but I kind of want to look at this from the standpoint of who are the new guys we're going to see, and what are you guys looking for in this game? The last week, the Saints could maybe play spoiler in Tampa Bay. This week, Matt, seriously, just a totally meaningless game, so we've got to find some meaning in it.
It might not be, for this week or for next week?
For this week.
Oh, for this week. Yeah, no, I mean, if the Raiders win, it would be a disaster because they keep falling down the draft order. Like, that's how much of a last week swing was for them. They had the number one pick and then fell out of it by beating Jacksonville. So, there's really not much to actually watch. It'll be interesting to see whether Derek Carr practices today, but that's about it.
Yeah, it is a little bit interesting. We're on Carr watch, but also Alvin Kamara, they haven't ruled out, and Chris Olave's back in practice, Luke. So we could actually see some guys back.
I would be really surprised with AK. I think Darren said it's really unlikely that he'll go, Darren Rizzi. So I would expect to see more of Kendre Miller, and we'll talk about this, but I actually want to see Kendre Miller play. Yeah.
You're talking like give him starter snaps, let him play.
Yeah, kind of like we thought we'd see last week when they ruled AK out, and then he got 8 touches.
Yeah,
and
they spent
the entire second half of the game with Jordan Mims in the game.
It's weird.
I don't care if you're in 2-minute offense and that's not something that he's got the package for. You're getting your doors blown off. It's time to see what your young players can do. If you just run your traditional offense, you're not going to win the game. So even if this week goes poorly and they find themselves in a big hole against the Las Vegas Raiders, which woof, just let the young guy play and see what he can do. Because we just haven't seen much of him. We'll get into that though. Yeah. I think I'd be really, really. I'd be astonished if Alvin plays. I think we've pretty much just mentally ruled him out. Chris Olave, I think I'd still be surprised if he plays in this game too, but we might see him in Week 18.
Just listening to Rizzi yesterday, it didn't sound like those guys were going to play.
What's the point?
Olave. The point is,
I think Olave,
if he wants to,
Olave might play. Olave might play. I think I'd feel a lot better about his chances than AK's because Rizzi's basically ruled AK out. But the point is I don't know, man. I know they've we're talking about draft order and stuff like that, and the lost season, and not playing for anything in terms of postseason. But I don't think it'd be a bad idea for Chris Olave to get back on the field. And like I've said before, you want your best players to want to play. If they're just to the point where they're who cares? You can pay me my $30,000 game check, whatever it is, $100,000 game check, so I can just sit on the sidelines and watch. That's not something I would want from an organizational perspective. So if he wants to play and he's healthy enough to play, and he feels confident in his concussions and all the stuff that you've checked out over the last 6-7 weeks, and let him play.
All right, so we will preview this game. We'll take a big picture look at where the Saints are first, and maybe talk about some of these young players as we go through today. First, want to let you know that Saints Insider is sponsored by Bank Plus. Their banking decisions are actually made here in New Orleans by local bankers who know the community and take the time to know you. From small business to big business, home loans to bank anywhere technology, Bank Plus is here for New Orleans. Learn more at bankplus.net. Member FDIC, equal housing lender. Let's take a quick break, and we will continue our breakdown after this.
Nice bike.
Thanks. Can I get it back before Saturday?
That might be tough.
Whoa. Is it just you?
For now, let's take a look.
Hi, strawberry mango.
Mm-hmm.
Here you go. Thank you. I'll take another one.
There's no better place to parlay than Caesars Sportsbook. Parlay Builder gives you all the game day action from all across the league. Multiple games, legs, and props, all in one spot. It's so quick and easy, you can keep your focus on the games and your nachos. Or if you're focusing on one game, remember, you can place your same game parlays live during the action. Caesars Sportsbook, the only sportsbook app with Caesars rewards.
Welcome back to the Saints Insider Podcast. Breaking down Saints Raiders, the betting line, if you're betting on this game, man, you're more degenerate than I am, but the Raiders are favored by a point. This thing opened Saints favored by 2.5. The under has been, or the total has been steadily being pushed to the under. We'll talk about that later, but it's down to 38, which still seems a little bit high. We're getting 38 combined points. Are the defenses both scoring or what?
Yeah, I mean, these are two pretty bad defenses. I think the Raiders are like the 6th or 7th worst scoring defense in the NFL, like 27 points a game, 26 points a game. The Saints, as we saw last week, are capable of being really bad, but I just think this is a bet on both offenses just stinking the joint up.
And Spencer Rattler's kind of a baby Jameis Winston, and he's like an over machine. So, maybe he scores some points for the Saints, gives some points away to the Raiders, and we get there. I don't know. But speaking of getting here, how did the Saints get here? Well, I kind of wanted to take a big picture perspective, and obviously injuries are a big part of this story, Matt. We talked about Olave and Kamara, Derek Carr, Rashid Shaheed's out for the season, Paulson Adebo's out for the season, Marshawn Lattimore's not even here anymore, still can't stay healthy. Like they've had injury problems up and down the roster, but I think it goes beyond that. I think it's a little cheap to say like, oh, this was a lost season because of injury.
Yeah, it absolutely was more than just the injuries. I think it was a misevaluation of the roster where this group stood collectively. We've seen a lot of guys fall off in terms of age. Tyrann Mathieu and Demario Davis specifically have had really down seasons compared to what they performed to in the past. The players behind the guys who have gotten hurt, there just isn't very strong depth on this roster, and that's kind of what happens. When you go all in like this, you just don't have the margin for your top guys getting hurt. And so I just think this roster is, I think the best case scenario for this team would have been a season like the Bucs are having, where, they're, what are the Bucs, 8-7? Mm-hmm. Like right in kind of the middle of it, maybe competing for the division. But yet, if a few things go wrong in New Orleans' case, then it's been an avalanche, to quote Mickey Loomis. He said it's been an avalanche of injuries, but it's just been an avalanche of everything. I mean, there have been a lot of problems this season, and you just don't fire the coach just because there have been injuries.
Yeah, the defensive line hasn't had hardly any injuries, and they haven't been good. The offensive line had some early, but they've been healthy lately. They haven't been good. I mean, Jeff, you mentioned this a few weeks ago in talking about Alvin as the team's only Pro Bowler. Now that he's hurt, he's only scored 3 touchdowns since week 2. Like, I'm not even sure he's a pro. There may not be a Pro Bowler on this roster.
Yeah, I was thinking about it the other day. I don't know if anyone will make it. And that says a lot about where they're at. Look, I think we all went into this season with open eyes about where this team was at, and we understood that it was very precarious, right? And it really had to have a lot of things go right for it to work out, kind of like Matt said, to where this team could contend in this division. Right. And I think that's the other thing, is this has been a very average, mediocre division. And you see when the Saints, I thought the Monday night game, now I understand there's enormous amount of injuries. So we have to acknowledge that. I mean, they're going in with one hand tied behind their back in some ways. But that was a contending team, and you just see the disparity between the two teams. They're not in that league right now, and they used to be. And I think that's where fans are frustrated. It's not so much where the team's at. It's sort of the delusional attitude that comes out of Airline Drive that they are a good team. I think that's what's frustrated people, because I think we can all see they're not. And I know no one's going to come out and say we're not good, but there could be a little more realistic expectations set from the people on Airline Drive of where this franchise is at and where they're trying to get. And there hasn't been that vision. Instead, it's been kind of like trying to just hold on every year to just kind of patch it together in the offseason, and maybe you can compete that year in this division. And there's no long-term hope that it's going to get a whole lot better because of that philosophy that's kind of fallen apart before everybody's eyes.
Well, the most dangerous thing to do would be to talk yourself into, okay, when we were healthy for those first 2 weeks of the season, we looked great.
God.
Because, like, the fact of the matter is that injuries happen in the NFL, and there are teams that have dealt with a huge rash of injuries, just like the Saints have this year. And the reason those injuries have been so impactful, I mean, obviously it's going to hurt any team when you're losing players of caliber of Alvin Kamara and Chris Olave and Taysom Hill and Rashid Shaheed, and the list goes on, right? But the problem with this Saints team is that they haven't drafted well. And because they're so hamstrung in the salary cap, they can't build their depth that way. So, like, they were built on a house of cards this year. You have a couple like crippling injuries or a couple significant injuries, and they really devastate the whole process.
For as good as this team looked in the first 2 weeks, they lost to the Carolina Panthers when Derek Carr was healthy.
I think I can rationalize that one where he definitely didn't look like he
sure,
normally does.
but I guess what I'm saying is this team is good enough to put up points and look awesome in a situation where everything goes right, but yet they still have the margin of error where you can just completely stink out the joint. And that's a lot of teams in the NFL. That's not the Saints specifically, but that's the danger you get with rolling it back. Like, you know, I'm sure we'll talk about it either on this show or the next show, whether they bring back Carr or not. Like, you just got to go one way or another. Like, if you bring him back, commit to, all right, we still want to try and compete, or can we compete with this? But if you get rid of him, go completely blow it up. Like, look at what the Raiders did after getting rid of Derek Carr. Like, they signed Jimmy Garoppolo. That was a disaster. They've tried to bring in Gardner Minshew.
Kind of went 1 foot in, 1 foot out.
Yeah, they went 1 foot in, 1 foot out, and they were in the range to try and get these quarterbacks. What they struck out, they thought apparently Michael Penix was going to be available for them at 13. He went to Atlanta at 8. They haven't had a concrete plan, I don't think, of finding that successor. And so if the Saints do want to get rid of Derek Carr this offseason, just have a plan. And even if you're not going to be in quarterback range this year, then commit to being really bad for a year and being in that quarterback derby next year.
Commit to being really bad.
No, that's not what this franchise does. I know.
Yeah, that's what they would have to do, though. If they did move on, because look, the reality is they're going to be paying him $50 million next year, no matter what, or he's going to account for that, right? Even if he's a post-June first cut, you have to carry that $50 million plus till June 2nd. So like you're not going to have it available for free agency and whatnot, like the $30 million that they would get back until after June 2nd. So like I'm with Matt. If they decide to move on from Derek Carr, which is definitely a possibility, right? Like it's not just like a foregone conclusion that he'll be back. Then they have to commit to being bad and loading up for 2026, because like as we talked about in the offseason when we did the player draft, under 25, like there is a dearth of young talent on this team, impact talent.
I'm glad you said that, because that's where we're going next. I mean, but I'll just finish up that segment with this, and that's Mickey Loomis told us back in January at post-2023 season press conference that he thought the team had a culture problem. He specifically said he did not think the roster was too old. He specifically said he thought that they were close. They had a culture problem, and they had let that slide, and they planned to address that. And that seemed to be his antidote for why they were struggling. But I think you have to look in the mirror and say it's more than that. They have a roster problem.
Yeah.
I don't care how great the culture is. And Derek Carr's a perfect example of that, because he's good enough to provide a floor to where you're not going to be that bad and get a really high draft pick. But he's not good enough to take you where you want to be. So you get kind of stuck in the middle, and that's why they have this problem. So to your point, Luke, let's move on to what I'm calling the late season youth movement. And that's, you asked, was it you who asked Darren Rizzi about young players? You wrote the story, and he kind of laughed and said, we're already...
It was actually Ross Jackson.
Okay.
A friend and colleague.
Yeah, Ross mentioned it, but we're all kind of on the same page. You wrote a story about some of the guys we might see And this is going to be our transaction segment, proudly sponsored by Associated Grocers. Join our team and help support the success of local independent retail grocers. Apply today for available positions at Associated Grocers. So you came up with 5 names we may see more of the next 2 weeks. I think
More
it's
or
kind of, more being a relative term, but yeah. It has already started. But to your point earlier, that's what you need to do with these last 2 games. Find out who needs to stick around and find out who needs to be jettisoned.
Yeah, let's. Are we starting with Kendre? Is that the?
You can start wherever you want.
All right, let's start with Kendre because that Green Bay game, I think, is a perfect example of what Luke was talking about earlier. Is, Kendre Miller played 22 snaps now, and Jordan Mims played 25. At first glance, you would think, okay, Jordan Mims handled the 2-minute situations. Kendre Miller handled the running attempts. I was looking it up. That break is not as even as you would expect. Like, Kendre Miller only got 8 rushing attempts. He was in on pass protection plays, in on passing plays. Now, I think the problem and why they went to Mims is because on those plays, he wasn't very good. And so we've talked about this over and over with Kendre Miller. Is does he know the playbook? Does he know what he's doing? And Darren Rizzi said he doesn't have a doghouse, but that kind of looked like a player who was in the doghouse Monday. And so I just think these last 2 games, it's really important for him to just show that he knows what he's doing, that he can be relied upon, that he can be trusted, because I just don't think the staff trusts Kendre Miller right now all the way.
Yeah, there's a reason he was in the doghouse. I said that before. Everybody wants to just explain that away like Dennis Allen's some boogeyman that had something personal against Kendre Miller. He got in there for a reason, and Dennis Allen is letting his offensive staff tell him this stuff. I mean, he's not coaching Kendre Miller, so that
He's
staff
not coaching anyone right now.
Yeah, I mean, that staff obviously has a problem with trusting him, and it's been going on for 2 years now. 2 years. At some point, when do you grow up and become a pro? And I think you're exactly right. I felt like at some point they said he's not there, and people have to understand. Like I know our viewers understand this; they're sophisticated. Like there's a lot more to playing running back in the NFL than just running the ball. I mean, Kendre Miller can run; everybody can see that. But there's so much more that goes into it, especially in this offense. Pass protection, there's a lot of options, a lot of things he has to be able to read, and I think that is what's holding him back, that professionalism and that being a good all-around back. The things that Alvin Kamara does so well and is so professional at, he just hasn't gotten there.
We always talk with Kendre. Tyjae Spears name comes up. He went to school at Tulane. Saints could have drafted Tyjae Spears. He's really thriving in Tennessee. He's getting time in Tennessee.
Yeah,
thriving's too strong. But Kendre needs to show in these last 2 games that he can do that.
Right. I mean, traits are one thing, right? They drafted him off traits. He's a really explosive back. He's NFL size. And you see what he can do with the ball in his hands. He's a really dynamic, explosive playmaker. But like to these guys' point, that's not the only way you get on the field, right? And there's a lot of other stuff he clearly needs to get better at. At the same time, I know we're talking about games not mattering and why are people getting on the field, but I think Jordan Mims is not part of your future
right
at running back.
Hey, there's Jamal Williams.
So if he's gonna sink, let him go out there and sink and know that it's bad. If you're getting if you're getting pantsed by the Green Bay Packers on national TV, let him go out there and sink. And be like, hey, this is why you were not on the field earlier, or this is why you're not gonna be on the field. You're not gonna have a future in the NFL if you keep doing this stuff. Let him go out there and fail and learn from it. I mean, that's the way I would see it, because the season obviously is going nowhere, literally nowhere, and that he needs to be out there and learn from this stuff and learn that he's got to do a lot of things better as a pro. I don't subscribe to the notion that that you can pull him because he's gonna be on the team for the next 2 years at least. They're not gonna cut him. Let him go out there and fail. Say these are the areas you need to get better, because you're not just gonna be a guy who's getting 15 touches a game because you're explosive. You need to do this other stuff.
But aren't you trying to help out Spencer Rattler? And if Spencer Rattler can't trust his back to be in for protection, you're trying to.
But are you
help
really
your
helping
young
him out?
quarterback.
Are you really helping him out with Jordan Mims in the game? I mean,
I don't know. I mean, the guy's obviously not doing something right. There's a reason he's not.
Yeah.
I think they're.
But
I think they have to consider like the rest of the team, and if you're not doing the right thing, I mean, you earn a spot on the bench. I mean, otherwise you're losing your credibility as a coach.
I think how they handled it in Green Bay was smart at the time because nothing was going for you as an offense. So you've got to at least try something different. So let's see what Mims has. Let's see what Jamal Williams has. Let's try anything to try and salvage this because they couldn't move the ball at all. But going forward, to Luke's point, you have 2 games. Kendre Miller probably would benefit from as many snaps as possible just because Jordan Mims isn't going to be here next year, and probably Jamal Williams isn't either. Like at some point, you do have to try and get the most out of these guys. It's just, if it is a disaster like it was in Green Bay, then you pull them. But I think a committee by approach was kind of the right plan for the way that the Green Bay game unfolded. But as long as it's not like a disaster the last 2 weeks, and Miller deserves as much as possible to try and build upon that.
The other name that kind of stuck out from your list, and you can read Matt's full story on this on NOLA.com/Saints, that's Isaiah Foskey, second-round pick a year ago, a year and a half ago now, who just has not seen the field. He's seen the field less this year, at least on defense, than he has his rookie year. He seems to be sliding backward. A lot of people have already labeled the guy a bust, and maybe he is. But you've got 2 games to kind of let him loose and see.
Yes, but this was the, if I were to critique my own list, I think Foskey's had an interesting, or not, like, he's an interesting enough name to put on that list, but do I actually think the Saints are going to be like, well, let's get Isaiah Foskey on the field more? No, I don't. I mean, he played 16 snaps, he played 11 snaps, which was his most since the Chiefs game. But, are they going to really take away Cam Jordan playing time? Are they going to try and cut Peyton Turner's minutes or snaps? I just think Foskey kind of is who he is. I don't think they're going to actually try and increase his playing time, but the reason why I put him on the list is because his second year has just been such... I mean, there's value in becoming a core special teams player, but there just hasn't really been anything. He hasn't taken the advantage of the opportunity when he's been on the field. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, he's not gotten on the field, but there's a reason for that.
Yeah.
It's also probably even as disappointing as the defensive line has been. If you're looking at actually deepest positions on the roster, probably defensive end, right? He's their 5th defensive end or 6th even if Tano's on the field. I don't know. I don't know if it's worth giving him more opportunity if he doesn't show it in practice. And yeah, there is value being a core special teamer, but not when you pick a defensive end in the 2nd round. You don't want that guy to be, you expect that's a premium position where you expect that guy to be at least a rotational pass rusher for you. I just don't think they're going to get that out of him.
Yeah, I just look forward to Isaiah Foskey becoming an All-Pro when the Eagles sign him. So.
Well, I'd say this. I mean, people miss, it all gets exasperated when a team's losing, when you miss on a player. But if you look around the league, everybody's got Isaiah Foskey. I mean, everybody misses on second round draft. And that's not a bad position to miss on. You roll the dice on a pass rusher and see if it works. So, they've got some other guys. I think this was a big year for Peyton Turner to take a step forward. I'm not sure we could say that, Well,
the only step forward he's taken is that he's been healthy.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I think he played more, or he's on track to play more games this year than he will have in his first 3 years combined.
Wow, this is a lot. Yeah, but I think he got an opportunity, and he kind of, at this point, maybe you'd say we kind of know what he is, right?
He had 2 sacks this year.
He's fine.
He's a rotational backup. So you missed on him too. I think it's fair to say. So yeah, but I also would say this, and I know this might be a conversation for another podcast, but they may have better talent than what's happening right now. I think a good example would be the Todd Grantham situation. Todd Grantham, I don't think got the most out of this defensive line. You can get another coach in there. Sometimes you get another scheme. Guys might blossom in a better system with a better coaching staff. I don't know. I'm just saying I don't think it's fair always just to write guys off, because I've seen it happen over and over. And Zach Bond's a great example, right?
Are we going to reference Zach Bond twice?
Yeah.
in the
Zach
span
Bond
of-
effect.
Yeah, or not even just him. I mean, I'm going back a long ways, but I remember John Stinchcomb was viewed as a complete bust by fans. He was a second-round draft pick out of Georgia. He was like inactive, a healthy inactive for a lot of his career, and then he gets in with the right staff, and they get something out of him. You know, so like it can happen. I'm not saying that it's all like that, but I do think sometimes it's easy to paint these guys in a dysfunctional situation. What I think's funny is, like, for years we heard, you know, the other organizations that were dysfunctional, and that this is a functional organization. I think it's hard to make that claim now, because I think we're just seeing guys flounder here over and over that I think might have some talent, you know?
So, to your point, Jeff, like, some guys are definitely going to benefit from a coaching scheme change. The problem that the Saints have to be careful with is you can't convince yourself it's the entire roster that, all these guys are going to benefit from, because if you want to hit the bell, you look at Washington.
On to Washington.
Yeah, like, they gutted their roster. Like, half those guys are gone. They cut ties with, you know, Jahan Dotson, Jamin Davis, Emmanuel Forbes, like their last 3 first-round picks. Those guys haven't really thrived anywhere. They didn't thrive in a new scheme change. Like, sometimes you just miss on a player, but there have been other players on Washington's roster that have benefited from this. Like, Brian Robinson has had a really nice season in Cliff Kingsbury's offense. Like, there are guys who are going to benefit from it, but you just have to be careful saying, like, oh, all we need is a new coach and a new scheme, and then we'll be fine. Like, you've got to do a little bit more. You've got to do more assessment of your roster than just convincing yourself.
I think it's clear looking at this team that, like, they are going to have to get a lot of new faces in.
Yeah.
Like, I think they're going to need like a Washington style reboot. And that's challenging, because it could go like it did for Washington if you get the right quarterback in there. And then we've seen it go the wrong way for a lot of, like, Houston was terrible for years. And they were trying to do this, like, year in, year out, signing guys to a bunch of one-year deals, getting a bunch of young players in there, and it didn't make sense until they hit on the quarterback. But, like, I mean, like, let's say the Saints even get, like, into the top 6 or 7 of this draft. Like, it would really behoove them to probably trade back and collect more assets and get more picks and add more youth and potential for breakout players in this next draft, because they're so short on it. And, like, they have a lot of solid players from recent drafts, like Alontae Taylor, Pete Werner, guys who are definitely NFL caliber, maybe starting caliber football players, but, like, they have no stars. I mean, Chris Olave maybe when he's healthy, you know, but, like, they really desperately need a lot of young impact players, because right now they just have young NFL players.
Yeah. No, they have a young player problem, I think. Olave is probably the one exception where you could say he came in and made an immediate impact. Not the one exception. There's other guys who have made an impact, but not a large impact.
I mean, I think you could say Fuaga.
Yeah.
I think Fuaga's been a very good pick for them this year. I think Brzee, even if Brzee is only like a situational type player, like if you've got a defensive lineman or an interior defensive lineman who's capable of getting like 8-9 sacks a year for you, that's a good pick. But, like, they need a lot more of that.
Okay, so you can read Matt's full list. I think Kyle Hergel, Christian Boyd, and Isaiah Stallberg were the other guys on your list. So you can read up those. We're not going to spend a ton of time on them.
Undrafted, 7th rounder, undrafted.
2 Isaiahs.
But you go find, go find out what you have, right? That's what this game is for.
Well, and we already know, like Kool-Aid McKinstry is going to be in the lineup.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know. Spencer Rattler's going to be out there. Yeah,
Right.
I mean, it's built
like
in.
Kevin
in certain
Austin has
spots.
been getting playing time. I tried to pick some guys who haven't received a lot of playing time.
Right. Saints Fans Associated Grocers is hiring. If you're looking to join a team dedicated to supporting independent grocers, apply today. Your future starts here. Let's take our second break. When we come back, we're going to do kind of an expedited breakdown of this Saints Raiders game and give our picks.
Expedited.
Okay, back on the Saints Insider. Breaking down Saints Raiders, such as it is, will start when the Saints have the ball. Still waiting for a Saints rookie quarterback to win a start. Didn't we have that stat when Rattler first started? Saints are now 0-5, and games started by either Rattler or Haener. So this is probably their best chance, though. What you got in the notebook there?
Oh, we'll see what I got in here.
All right.
I didn't realize that. No Saints rookies won a quarterback.
They're 5-5 with Carr and 0-5 without.
Well, I mean,
It's
so
not
how-
ever, but
not
it's,
ever.
How
you
far
got to
back
go
would we
back
go?
to, I think, 30 years, right? I can't remember who it was.
Danny Werfel.
Well, I think it was Danny Werfel who finally won.
Wow. That's like 99 or something like that, or 90.
98,
97, I think.
97.
90, wow.
98 or 97. One of those.
Of course, not very many of them have played.
No.
That's not been the MO for the Saints. It's a good stat, though.
Yeah, I mean that. Yeah, I think the Raiders aren't very good.
All right, next.
And see.
Yeah, I think.
Move on. Yeah.
I think they have a decent enough run defense, even though they're giving up like 4.5 yards per carry. It's not nearly as bad as the Saints' run defense, but like, yeah, I think if this is ever going to be the game where we're going to see what Spencer Rattler can do, like, I think this is it. They'll probably have MVS back this week. I think that'll help. Maybe Chris Olave out there, that would definitely help. But like they got to see more than like a quarter of really good play from Rattler. It's got to be more than just like a flash here or there, and it definitely can't be the playing loose with the football stuff that we've seen. That's really all I care about in this game. Like, can he show me consistently that he can be a guy you can develop and hope he turns into something.
Yeah, I wrote after the game that, like, the Packers game, like, how are you supposed to fairly evaluate Rattler in a situation like this? And I stand by that, but at the same time, you can only use that, like you can only use that so many times. And I think this game, you got to at least see some forward momentum from him, because even if the same injuries, like, he's not going to have a starting center and a starting guard again. Like, that was his problem in the first start, is he didn't have a healthy offensive line. We saw how it bothered him, but still the Raiders, man.
Is Crosby playing?
No.
No, he's out for the season.
So that's huge.
So the two times Spencer Rattler has looked good, or at least like an NFL quarterback. Second quarter against Tampa Bay, benefited tremendously from field position, from some big plays on the defense and special teams. You could say momentum, whatever. He did some good things. And then it was the second half against Washington. Benefited from probably game state, benefited from maybe coming in a relief role, benefited from, I think, 3 personal foul penalties that extended drives or gave them big boost in field position. Some of that is, like, to your point, Matt, is that fool's gold because of the situations and because he got help from outside sources, or can he really be that? And I think this may be an opportunity for him to answer.
This is when you got to show it, right? He has played a lot of really good defenses in some bad situations, right? The Broncos are one of the better defenses in the NFL. The Chargers have a really good defense. The Packers have a really good defense. And he's played those teams without significant chunks of his offensive, both his line and the weapons he's throwing to. I think every game they've had this year that they didn't have Olave or Shaheed in the lineup, he was starting. I think most of the games he started, he didn't have Taysom Hill either. He removed Alvin Kamara from that equation, even last week MVS. I mean, that was really like a JV squad that he was working with last week. Even though you won't have McCoy or Patrick in the lineup this week, maybe MVS, maybe Olave, like, against a bad defense. Like, this is the time you got to show it, for sure. I don't think there's any doubt in my mind about that.
You hit on it earlier, just real quick. You've got to have the decision-making process be sound, no matter who's out there. Got to get rid of the ball faster than you did on the sack fumble. The interception, I still have really no idea what he was trying to throw to there. I know Moreau was covered, but, like, you just got to be smarter with the football.
I think a part of that's just, he's a young guy and he's trying to make his mark. So, I get it. Like, he's in a tough situation because he's trying to show what he can do. but he's in such a difficult situation that sometimes that leads to these problems. But I think the concern everyone should have with him is that some of the negatives that were on his scouting report, we're seeing basically what he is in live action at the NFL level: decision making, completion percentage. Some of the things, holds the ball too long. Those are the things that have carried over, I think, in light of not having, and Luke's completely correct, man. I mean, that's a JV lineup he was trying to go against one of the better teams in the league against. But it's still the other things you see that give you a little pause. I think it's fair to say we have no idea yet if Spencer Rattler is a NFL starting caliber quarterback. I think that's completely fair to say.
By the way, I'm trying to look here. Danny Werfel did not. He was shut out in both of his starts in 1997 as a rookie. So I think you actually have to go back to Bobby Hebert in 1985, and he was only a rookie because he was coming from the USFL.
I don't consider him a rookie.
To get a rookie winner for the Saints. So you're going back almost 40 years, and this is their chance. So other side of the ball, when the Raiders have it, Raiders offense is not good. They've got Aiden O'Connell at quarterback. They do have, Jeff, and you mentioned this in our group chat this morning, Brock Bowers, who happens to play the position the Saints have a lot of trouble defending sometimes, and he's really good.
Yeah, there's a lot of people trying to push him for Rookie of the Year, and I think you can make an argument. He's having one of the best rookie tight end seasons.
He's gonna break Mike Ditka's rookie tight end receiving record. And Mike Ditka, when was he a rookie? 1912
or something. Yeah. He's having an amazing season. I saw Diana Rossini today tweeting about how the Rams really tried to trade up for him and go get him. He would have fit in great with that offense.
I think the Saints. I think the Saints were he got picked one pick before they were drafting, and I think that was a guy that they would have considered not taking a tackle if he was there.
I can see why. He was great at Georgia, too. He was incredible player. There's no doubt. He's going to have a long, great NFL career as long as he stays healthy. The Raiders hit a home run on that. That's one of those ones you just take the best player, worry about it later.
It's like the first time in a long time the Raiders hit a home run.
I know.
Well, they just finally just did the obvious thing. Just, hey, this is the best player. Let's just take him.
Wonder what the over-under is.
They didn't take Xavier Worthy, which is a surprise.
The Raiders do struggle to run the ball.
Small guy run fast.
Maybe a reprieve for the Saints' run defense in this one. But again, it's one of those things where you say it's a reprieve, but on which side is it? Maybe it's just an easier game for the Raiders running offense because the Saints can't seem to stop anybody.
Yeah, I wonder if we'll see
the movable object versus the stoppable force.
Right.
I wonder if we'll see old friend Desmond Ridder at any point. I know Aiden O'Connell's healthy; he'll probably get the start. But Antonio Pierce has had kind of a quick trigger with these quarterbacks of, all right, you're not working, get out of here, come back. It's just a constant carousel that has been very ugly.
Tyrann Mathieu wants to see Desmond Ridder.
Yeah.
He's responsible for half of his Saints interceptions here.
Throws one right to him. What you got?
Well, just hitting on the rushing numbers. Raiders are dead last in the NFL at 77.5 yards per game. They're second to last in the NFL in rushing success rate, 34.2%. So that's 4 yards on first down, 60% of the yards on second down, and 100% of the yards on third down. That counts as a successful run. So only a third of their runs hit those benchmarks. And I think they are dead last in the NFL in EPA per rush. They are a terrible rushing offense, and they have been all season. So if this is not a game where the Saints can button down and defend the run, then it's just,
they're just not capable of doing it.
You don't have to worry about Aiden O'Connell running on you. He might be the most stationary guy in the league. So this actually
got a great mustache, though.
Yeah, it suits the Saints defense pretty well.
Except for Brock Bowers.
Yeah,
except for that part.
Except for that, they had to have 3 guys on
little
it.
guy. Don't worry about
Triple
that
team the
guy.
tight end. Let everybody else beat you.
Yeah.
Okay, keys of the game real quick, and then we'll do our picks. Assuming that we actually think the Saints want to win this game, which I think Darren Rizzi's still trying to win games.
Yes,
which is,
he definitely is.
That may be part of the problem here in trying to get guys time and all of that. But assuming the Saints are actually trying to win this game, and the Raiders are actually trying to win this game, which we have to take them at their word that they are. Matt, what is your key to the game?
Avoid turnovers if it's Spencer Rattler. And if it's Derek Carr, then, he avoids turnovers. Just take care of the football.
All right.
Matt stole mine. I'm go back to the notebook here. Raiders have only 11 takeaways this year, which is second to last in the NFL, and they are negative 17 in turnover margin, which is, I think, also second to last or dead last. But they have forced 6 in their last 3 games. Spencer has been a little loose with the football this year, so I'm with you on that. And I'll say, just kind of piggybacking on what we were saying earlier, like, don't let Brock Bowers go for 200 against you.
Yeah, get to 20 points and you win this game, I think. I think if you get to 20,
Yeah, I agree.
you're over-under math over there. But and look, play a little Rizzy ball. We didn't get to see much of that last week because of the circumstances, but fake something, throw some kitchen sink action at the Raiders. What do you got to lose?
Exactly. And I think another one, mine is just going to be, if adversity does strike early, Brock Bowers catches a long pass, the offense doesn't look good, like, how does the team respond to that? Because after Monday, on a short week, in a meaningless game, it's going to be kind of tough to keep those emotions running high. So, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I would say this. I mean, like, they got enough pros on this team. Cam Jordan's still busting his butt out there. DeMario Davis. I mean, that's one thing, keeping those guys around, even though sentimentally you might need to move on at some point, maybe this offseason. I have no doubt that they're going to keep playing hard. I mean, you just see it every game. They're still busting out there. It's just, how good are they at this point?
Yeah. But I'm saying, if you fall behind and things aren't going well, I'm not saying they're going to quit. I don't think pro teams quit, but if there's definitely a difference when you're not playing as hard. Okay, prediction time for Saints versus Raiders. You can leave your pick in the comments below. We also urge you to hit the like button while you're down there. Subscribe to the YouTube channel and share the show with your friends. Rod Walker, who's not here, he has a barn burner, ladies and gentlemen, finishing 13-9 Las Vegas. Looking forward to that.
Field goal bowl.
So Rod, who, by the way, we got to shout him out, is 13-2 on his Saints picks this year. Has the Raiders winning 13-9.
Somebody hasn't picked the Saints to win by 1 point in every game.
Yeah, amazing how that works out for you.
Foreshadowing.
Just saying.
All right, Matt, what you got?
Did I have 14-10 or 13-10?
You have 14-10.
14-10.
But for the Saints.
For the Saints, yeah. This team is average, like, I don't know what the number is right now, but with Rattler, Hayner in there, it's like, it was 15 points per game entering Hayner. I think it's probably 12 or something since. 14 seems like enough to win this one, as sad as that is.
Yeah, maybe one of those touchdowns is from defense.
Sure.
'Cause I don't know how else they're getting to. Although I have another spoiler alert, the over-under's 38. All 5 picks are under. So we just don't think, we think even 38's too high. I've got the Raiders winning 19-16. I think you got a field goal fest. And I just think the Raiders, against all odds, are also still playing hard.
Break up the Raiders.
Yeah, they got some. The Raiders, by the way, if they could play the Chargers in what could be a meaningless game for the Chargers in Week 18, they could actually pass the Saints in the draft order. If the Saints lost out and the Raiders won out, which would be kind of hilarious. But I've got 19-16 Raiders. Luke, what say you?
I've got the Saints winning this one. I think I had it 16-13. I don't feel great about it, but I do think that last week, notwithstanding, I'm going to trust what Rizzy has done here in his time, and he's gotten these guys playing hard and winning the games they should be, even if it's ugly like it was in New York, and outside of that Packers game, being competitive in games where we all thought they would lose. So I'm going to keep riding that, but I think it's going to be an ugly game.
Not sure anybody can be totally confident in their pick this week, except for
Dunk.
Jeff Duncan.
What's Dunk's
confident.
record?
2-13, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
You got the number 1 pick.
I'm just saying, in 2 weeks, we're going to be busting out the preseason column.
Okay.
Predictions.
All right.
We'll be busting that
Let's
one
do
out.
that when you're buying our dinner at Clancy's.
That's the
2 weeks.
That's the one that matters.
You did pick 6-11 for the Saints,
And I think it's going to be exactly right.
which means they need one more win. So
I think I'm going to be touting that to all y'all.
okay. And you've got
For the
17-16
year,
Saints for like the
I
sixth
picked the
time this year.
exact record they're going to have. Because they're going to win this game, no doubt in my mind. There's absolutely no doubt.
Absolutely no doubt. So they're
I'd
going
like
to
to
win
change
by
my prediction.
1 point.
They're going to win by 1 point. No doubt in his
I
mind.
actually think Rattler's going to play well in this game.
I mean,
I think he's going to play well. I think Kendre Miller's
so.
going to play well. And I think they're going to get out of there. It wouldn't surprise me if they won pretty easy.
Okay.
But I'm only going with one.
But you're picking by 1 point because that's what you do.
That's what I do.
All right. Okay, that is our pod for today. We'll have a post-game show for you at the Superdome on Sunday for Saints versus Raiders. We appreciate all of you. Honestly, I was blown away. We had a huge audience for our post-game show Monday night, and I thought everyone would be terrible. But that just shows the passion of this fan base, so we appreciate all of you, and we'll be there Sunday after the game, too. For our producer, Norman Bell, he's Matthew Paris, Luke Johnson, and Jeff Duncan. I'm Zach Ewing, and we'll see you next time on the Saints Insider.
It's a big audience because I